I wake up like every 2 hours in such pain and dying of thirst. My doctor said it's definitely connected to this POTS syndrome.
She's smart enough herself, and her doctors are smart enough to link having these symptoms with autoimmunity.
Hi, everybody. Listen, this is such a requested one that we're talking about tonight. POTS. Bethenny Frankel, the reality star, she's in the news talking about how her POTS is totally out of control. It's creating a lot of interest in POTS, but it's also causing some confusion.
Yeah, I would say that nobody really has a nobody I've met has a classical presentation of POTS.
Mhm.
And we'll dig more into it, but there's a lot of different ways with which it can present. But I can tell based on this clip and what she's sharing on social media that there is a lot that she and especially her doctors don't know about POTS. And we're going to blow this case and the lid wide open on POTS today.
Bethenny Frankel, she's a well known reality star. I have to say, I'm a big fan of hers. I watch reality TV and I love her, and she's hilarious. But here she is. She has all of the resources that anyone could imagine, and yet she is still dealing with a big struggle with her POTS. Would you like to hear what Bethenny Frankel has to say about her struggle now, Dr. Maggie?
Let's do it.
We're asking why my face looks different in my makeup videos, and it's because I am messed up. I am not doing that great. I'm so dehydrated and riddled with aches and pain. I've gained like 4 pounds while being here because my body's trying to hold on to any water it can. I wake up like every 2 hours in such pain and dying of thirst. My doctor said it's definitely connected to this POTS syndrome that I have.
Okay, so she
All
talks
right.
about some interesting symptoms there: weight gain, extreme thirst, a lot of pain, waking up at night.
Yeah.
Are these classic things that you hear about with POTS?
No, and that's the interesting thing is if you go and Mr. Google and you actually search on POTS, the classic symptoms when you look at POTS really fall in the realm of more cardiac. This is why this diagnosis often falls to the cardiologist, and I'm going to tell you it doesn't belong there. But the classic symptoms that you're talking about is fast heart rate, tachycardia, is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which means that with positional changes, you're going to see orthostatic, meaning positional changes, tachycardia, fast heart rate, runs of it back and forth, depending on the position that you're in, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Now, when you have tachycardia, super fast heart rate, your heart becomes less efficient, and therefore it can cause big fluctuations in blood pressure. So you can have blood pressure drops, ups and downs, ups and downs. What does that trigger? It can cause you to have dizziness, really lightheaded. It can cause you to be nauseated. It can cause you to have severe anxiety. It can cause you to be unable to walk or exercise. So a freaking big deal. So these symptoms, when you think about it and you hear postural orthostatic, meaning blood pressure and tachycardia, people think this is a cardiology problem. And I guarantee you she's seeing a cardiologist. How do I know? Everybody's going to Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, her specialists, all that. And many of them are cardiologists dealing with this syndrome, but yet people are getting worse. I don't know if it was in this clip, but I saw in another clip where she mentioned that it's mixed up with this autoimmune thing, she said.
Mhm.
And so I think she's smart enough herself, and her doctors are smart enough, somebody's smart enough to link having these symptoms with autoimmunity. Because I frequently see, and look, whether you have an autoimmune diagnosis or not, if you have these symptoms relating with POTS, there's a high likelihood there's an autoimmune component underneath it. But to me, okay, even if it doesn't, you don't have another autoimmune disease going on, is there causes underneath that's causing the POTS that's similar to people with autoimmune disease? The answer is yes. When I actually look at Bethany's case, and how many of you guys with POTS listed in chat right now don't have, they may have some of these classic symptoms, but then listen, she has extreme thirst.
Okay, I want to ask you about that. What do you think that's all about?
So here's the thing is it gives you clues as to what's underlying causing POTS. Can some people with POTS have extreme thirst? And the answer is yes, yes, and hell yes. It's not just thirst. She has a lot of pain. She has a lot of swelling. She has insomnia and she has extreme anxiety. So there's a lot of different symptoms that are coming along with the POTS that quote unquote don't fit the definition. Someone like her, has she been not had these resources, may not even get the diagnosis, right? So can some people with POTS have thirst? Absolutely. What are the medications for POTS? Blood pressure lowering medications that slow the heart rate. Now,
That seems like it could make things potentially worse in some ways.
Because the problem isn't heart.
Yeah.
The problem isn't the heart, and then you give them heart slowing medications that also has a side effect of dropping their blood pressure. Boom, you just made them worse. Having, like, 26 years medical career, the last 6 years with our online program, helping people with all sorts of chronic disease, right? Early in our program is the blood sugar balancing module, week 2, in fact, currently. And it was fascinating because what happens is, remember, I just said people with POTS problems have tons of hormone problems. So we attracted a lot of people with hormone problems. They come into the program, and immediately after week 2, they started to get so much better. And I realized, like, wow, okay, so blood sugar is actually the trigger of POTS. And it's a theory. And it's a theory that I tested out year after year after year, and hundreds of people later. I have not met a POTS person or dysautonomia or anybody with those symptoms that's gone through our program that didn't have some huge amount of relief just within the first couple weeks after the blood sugar module. So I knew right away.
Let's talk a little bit more about blood pressure because I think we've got about half dozen comments asking you. Blood pressure is all a part of this as well with POTS.
It is actually. So when they say something is orthostatic, it means that with positional change, the symptom gets worse. And based on gravity, right? So what happens is when you actually switch positions based on gravity, blood pressure changes naturally. So that's what we call orthostatic blood pressure change. But there are people that are really prone to what we call orthostatic hypotension, meaning that when they switch positions, the blood sugar can really drop. And that's really common for people with POTS. Now, this is where then, oh, you go to a cardiologist and get blood pressure medications to drop your blood pressure and slow your heart. No, right? They have low blood pressure.
And so you want to make it even lower? That's not going to help.
No, it does not. So this is where I think about all the things that we teach in our program. And I'm like, what are mechanisms that lower blood pressure? Well, did you know that low blood sugar causes low blood pressure?
Okay.
Okay. Low blood sugar causes low blood pressure. Known fact. And also low blood sugar. You know, this it causes you guys, some of you to get headaches. That's
Mhm.
a low blood pressure headache for a lot of people. FYI. But the other thing is too, high blood sugar has a mechanism now for causing low blood pressure. So this is not just a high blood sugar problem or low blood sugar problem. When you have high blood sugar, what do? You feed infectious organisms in your gut, whether that's the big C, that's a virus, whether that's a bacteria, or whether that's fungal, right? With candida or, Lyme, whatever it is. When you have high blood sugar, you're actually feeding infection. Now, when you feed the infectious organisms, they multiply, they grow. But the problem is that when you get later on, you hit low blood pressure again, they need the sugar to live. A lot of them will die and split cells. So when you hit low blood pressure, you're actually splitting the cells of these infectious organisms. Guess what happens? They release a whole bunch of what we call LPS and other compounds. They're insides. Guess
Mhm.
what? LPS causes tons of inflammation, pain, swelling, i.e., Bethenny's talking about her pain and swelling,
Mhm.
right? But LPS also drops blood pressure.
Dr. Maggie, I wish more doctors were educated on this. It's like, why are you, it seems like the only one who knows anything about this?
It literally was like kind of by accident, like over the years, is like I work a ton with hormones, gut health, autoimmune, chronic disease, right? So we attract people who have like blood sugar problems, hormonal problems, gut infection, food allergies, right? But because we attract this population, we're able to also solve their problems. It's like this step, this step, this step, this step. And it's to me like when I see someone come in the program with POTS, for me, I'm like, okay, so it's gonna get better in a couple weeks. You'll thank me later.
And they can't believe it at first. They're like, "What? I've been dealing with this for years, and my symptoms are so bad." And by the way, you were asking who that alumni was that had it resolved. It was Dana Nelson, and it took 2 weeks.
Oh my God. So I was
Exactly.
going to quote Dana here because Dana, you were the first one that really pointed out to me. It was like on a call towards the end of the program, and you and I were talking, and I was like, by the way, how's your POTS? And you went, oh my God, I haven't had symptoms since week 2. She forgot she had POTS of all those years because it got better by the end of week 2. And this is, I'm talking to her like, at the like 10 weeks, 10 weeks later. She's like, oh my God, I haven't had symptoms since week 2. And it really like, and I was like, I asked Dana, I said, what do you think was the biggest linchpin for you? And she's like, blood sugar.
She wasn't alone. Here's another person that said I got resolved for pot symptoms within the first month of the program. So it only takes a matter of weeks of working with you. And this is not unique. It's, these stories, everybody that comes through with POTS, I see dramatic improvements, usually entirely eliminated POTS are gone. It's a thing of the past. They don't worry about it anymore. On to different things.
If you know somebody else who's dealing with this, tag their name in the comment section right now. That'd be super duper helpful. I'd love to have more people learn about this. And for goodness sake, someone tag Bethenny Frankel in this. This is a completely solvable problem.
If you were going to speak to Bethenny Frankel right now directly, what would you tell her?
Bethenny, this is solvable within the next couple of weeks.
If you'd like more information about the 5 pillars or ways to connect with the Transform team, just put a comment in our chat and a member of the team will get with you.
Thanks, everybody.